Raw 4 TV. What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw 4 TV, aka Darth Apocalypse. All right, so let's get to this. Look, we all know that Michael Jordan had a second act that was much anticipated to Michael Jordan fans back in 2001 when Mike retired in 1998. Well, actually, January 1999, but we all sort of knew after the 98 season that it was coming. But Mike preempted his retirement because he wanted to still help his fellow players, with the lockout and resolving their situation. So he delayed his retirement to be active in the negotiation process with the owners. But we knew the retirement was coming, and we felt sort of shortchanged because although he did win 6 NBA championships, a lot of us felt that he could have won even more. And that's what is one thing that gets sort of lost in this whole GOAT debate stuff, is that as great as Michael Jordan's career was, you still feel like, sort of like with Muhammad Ali and the 3 years in exile, you still felt like there was much left off much was still left off the table as far as what Muhammad Ali could have achieved, even more so. You feel the same way with MJ. That team was broken up. I mean, never mind the retirement that he had in 93. You felt like that team should have been able to have gone out of their shield, and that's why so many Bulls fans booed Jerry Krause, represented by his widow, a couple of years ago. It wasn't personal with her, but many Chicago Bulls fans still hold it against him because he broke that team up. But anyway, Mike came back in 2001, and he played at a very high level, considering that he had been out the game for 3 years, had gotten out of shape, hadn't touched a basketball in years. Considering also that the Wizards, the year before he got there, went 19-63 and were a basement dweller team. I think he did very well, right? But he wasn't the same player, obviously. But some people forget that there was a chance for Michael Jordan to join the Dallas Mavericks. Now, it was back in 2000 when Mark Cuban became the controlling owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and he revealed some years ago that he had approached Michael Jordan and his agent, David Falk, about joining the Dallas Mavericks. Now, he said this in an interview a couple of years ago. He said, quote, "The day he signed with the Washington Wizards to come back, David Falk, that's right, when I was buying the Mavs, said, quote, why don't you go meet him?" Cuban said, "So I went to David Falk's office and all the papers were right there. And I was trying to convince MJ to not sign them and to do something with the Mavs." But the thing was, Michael Jordan had already given his verbal agreement to sign with the Washington Wizards. So it never really came to that as far as Michael going to the Dallas Mavericks. But it does bring up an interesting situation here. What if he did play with a young Dirk Nowitzki and a young Steve Nash? Now, in reality, That first year that they were together, which was 2001, 2002, I think they won something like 53 games, and I think they went to the semifinals. That second year, 2002, 2003, they went all the way to the conference finals, if I remember correctly. I think they won 60 games, and I think they won 6 games with the eventual NBA champions. But remember, Dirk got hurt in that series. I think it was in game 3. He hurt his. I think he fractured his ankle or some type of a severe ankle injury. Was left off for the rest of the series. But at that time, they were up 2-1, Dallas. So it does beg the question: if you have a Michael Jordan, who yes, we all know is a prolific scorer, but Michael could do so many different things out there, right? If you have Michael Jordan on this team, is he enough to push them to a championship? I tend to think so. Because let's see something here. Let's look at the 2001 2002 season. I think they got to the second round that year. Let me double check that. I want to make sure I'm correct. Oh, so okay. I said they won 53 games. They won 57 games. So they're second in the Midwest Division, and that year they lost 4-1 to the Sacramento Kings. Right now, their roster at that time. Let's see. Okay, now they had. Trying to look at something here. So the center was Rafe LaFrance, the Dirk Nowitzki at power forward, Michael Finley at small forward, I believe, right? Nick Van Exel at shooting guard, and Steve Nash at point guard. So in essence, you kind of almost have 2 point guards in the backcourt. So you got Michael Finley at the 3. So I would think what could have happened was they could have moved Dirk to the center position and played Mike at the 4. Because sometimes Mike did play power forward. And it makes sense because also Mike was still a formidable post player. And he had more bulk on him then. He was 6'6", 225. He was much stronger. Um, and that would fit in with more of a small ball style for the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to play 40 minutes a night at age 39, 40, but I could see him still giving you, even in that faster pace, he could still give you 30, 32 minutes a night, right? Then, at that position, he could be spelled by Rafe LaFrance or, Edouard Nahara or whoever, right? So I think that would have been a formidable team. Mike, of course, still was a good defender. He wasn't the defender that he had been previously when he was his prime, obviously, but he was still a good defender, above average defender, still a very good help defender. And at the power forward position, the only thing about it is he may not have been able to consistently guard every premier power forward, because I've said this before, that era was the greatest era ever for power forwards. So I don't know if Mike will be able to have the athleticism and size to guard all of those guys consistently. It might switch them off to the 3s. But Mike still is going to be able to give those guys a run for their money as far as being able to score. One thing I am concerned about, though, with this team is their rebounding. Dirk was never the strongest rebounder, although he did up the ante during the playoffs. 9.9 rebounds. Mike at the power forward position, I still think he would only average about 7, maybe approaching 8 rebounds a game. But still, if you look at how good they were without Michael Jordan. And by the way, I forgot this team also had Tim Hardaway coming off the bench, at least in the regular season. It stands to wonder that, yeah, especially 2003. In 2003, they made it to the conference finals. If Dirk Nowitzki doesn't get hurt and they're beating the San Antonio Spurs, then that's a championship. Because the Nets aren't going to beat them. So that is an interesting what if. I think if Michael went to the Dallas Mavericks, he would have obviously helped the team. Look, no matter what people want to say about the Washington Wizards, the team got better under Michael Jordan. They went from 19 wins to 37 both years. And he didn't have much help with him. So it only stands to reason if you put Michael Jordan on a team that has Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash and Michael Finley and, some other players who weren't quite in their primes anymore, like Tim Hardaway, although I'm not sure he played in the playoffs. Let me see if he played in the playoffs. And you got Nick Van Exel. I don't see how he doesn't elevate them to being a championship contender. I don't see how he doesn't. And I think playing with all that talent more than likely makes him a better offensive player. His efficiency goes way up. I would say he probably goes from shooting 41% that first year to maybe like 46%, and then as he gets healthier and more acclimated to to the new NBA and where what's more effective as far as him being able to score and being more selective in his shots, probably closer to 48, 49%. That's just off top. I'm just guessing. So, yeah, I think that he would probably win a championship with the Dallas Mavericks. That's what I'm saying. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.
TV.